Hello, Steve Arts 89. I'm a huge fan of the Addams Family. I am a member of the Addams Family. I related to Wednesday Addams when I was growing up. And I was really looking forward to this show, but I was also kind of cautious because I wasn't sure how some elements were going to work. Now, they dropped the whole series, 8 episodes in one go. I didn't know they were doing that. I was prepared for one episode. I watched it, loved it, wanted to, and then realized there's 7 more episodes, and I had to basically cancel my plans for the evening and the next day so I could watch them and make room for the other extra 7 hours. So I did that. I just have to say I did enjoy the show overall. The two criticisms which I'll get out of the way it wasn't dark enough. It was a little CW and a little kiddie in parts. And the other issue is that Tim Burton came on, he directed 4 episodes, not the whole series, and he kind of created his own little universe, which is very much a Tim Burton universe of outsiders and monsters, and he just sort of used the Addams Family characters and the Addams Family franchise to sort of do it, and I think he would have been better off creating his own original show and really just, really exploring that world, because what worked about the Addams Family they were a family of unique individuals who were, they were in our world and they were the outsiders and they were very different and unique. When you put them in a world full of monsters and outsiders and werewolves and creatures, it kind of takes away from the uniqueness of them. Now, episode to episode, you didn't really feel it because all the creatures were sort of subdued. They were behaving so they could be at the academy. They weren't sort of embracing their natural sort of beings, and that really only the monster that is sort of the villain of the piece is really sort of the only one that's acting out. So you don't really feel it episode to episode, but I do think they would have been better off just having Burton come in and do an original show, Tim. That would have worked. But because this show could have worked as a straight drama where Wednesday goes to this academy, she's the odd one out, and she uncovers this town's mysteries and secrets, and rights all the wrongs, and it could have been done as a very sort of traditional Nancy Drew sort of series, and that would have been just as good, and then we would have had 2 shows. But so yeah. Now the main characters, there's Gwendolyn Christie, who's the headmaster. There's the sheriff's son, who Wednesday kind of falls for. There's another guy that Wednesday met, Tyler, when she was young. The sheriff's son is Tyler. Xavier is the is it Xavier or Xander? I'm thinking of Buffy. Xavier. He is an artist and he has a crush on her. He met her when they were younger and she helped him out with something, and he didn't forget her, but she forgot him. Then there's her roommate, who is a werewolf who can't turn into a werewolf, so she's kind of the outsider in her own family, and they want to send her to like werewolf conversion school and so forth. So there's some interesting stories there later on. She is very, very happy and bright and very opposite of Wednesday. She hates her at first, but they do become friends. Then there's this other kid who's sort of like a Pugsley substitute who doesn't really have any friends there, and he keeps bees. His name's Eugene. He's got 2 mums, and she sort of saves him and sort of takes him on as a bit of a project. And then there's the teacher, played by Christina Ricci. And when I first found out Christina Ricci was in this, I thought it was going to be a cameo. When I realised that it was like a main role and she was going to be in every episode, I realised, oh, she's going to be the bad guy. She's going to be the big bad. They're not going to waste Christina Ricci. And I was right. So spoilers, she's the one sort of behind everything in the series. She's not the only villain because there's multiple people working together. But basically, there's 3 sort of stories in history, sort of in the history of the town, involving the Addams family. They're intertwined, so it's difficult to sort of separate them and tell them. But the first issue is the guy who founded the town, Crackstone. Crackstone. He basically had a problem with the outsiders. The outsiders are very much a minority. And they are basically targeted, much like the witch hunts, and he attempts to kill them all and basically commit genocide against this basically race of mutants, which is made up of different types of monsters and so forth. One of the people he tries to kill is Goody Addams, which is one of the Addams ancestors. Fortunately, she escapes, she kills him, and she binds him with a blood curse so he can't come back. And the only thing that can release him from that, the key to that, is the blood of one of her ancestors, which of course is what Wednesday could be. So that happens and it's buried. Then we have the story from 1990-91 when Morticia Addams and Gomez Addams were both at Nevermore Academy. Basically, there was a family called the Gateses. They are ancestors of the Crackstones. And the father wanted his son Garrett to poison all the students of Nevermore at a dance. And he's obsessed with Morticia. He fights Gomez, and during this fight he breaks the vial of poison that he was supposed to put in the punch and poisons himself and is dying and going crazy. And Gomez is losing the fight. Morticia steps in and pulls a knife on him, and he actually stabs himself on the sword and falls also to his death, I guess. I'm not sure what killed him. That, the sword, the poison, the fall, either way he was dead. Gomez takes the blame, nearly goes down for it, but it all gets covered up by the police chief, who then becomes the mayor. Now the family of the Garretts fall apart. The dad, who's to blame for it all, drinks himself to death. The mother commits suicide, and the daughter goes abroad and dies in an accident on the ocean or something. So as soon as I found out that there was this daughter, I said, oh no, she's not dead. That's Christina Ricci's character, and she's come back because she's the only teacher who's a normie, because we're called normies in this universe, in this world. And I knew right away that she's the big bad, she's that girl, she's come back, and she's trying to do something with the history. So we've got this monster which is running around trying to kill people. The monster turns out to be a Hyde, which is the monster side of one of the other students. And at first, Wednesday thinks it's the artist guy who likes her, Xavier, because he's drawing pictures of it because he's having visions of it. She accuses him, she's wrong. She then thinks it's her therapist because she's been working with him, and she thought that he was the Hyde and that the therapist brought it out for her own use because whoever calls the Hyde controls it and is its master. And I actually thought for a moment she might have been the villain because she was so not likely, so she was the most likely. But I only thought that for a second, that she was killed, so it wasn't her. And then we find out, of course, that it's Christina Ricci's character. Now, she was, of course, the sister, the daughter, and she is the ancestor, and she wants to bring her ancestor back so he can finish his job, basically, what he was doing, and kill all the outsiders in the academy. And this was prophesized, and Wednesday was shown, and people misinterpreted it as either she created she caused the end of the academy, or she saved the academy. Either way, she sort of got blamed. That's why the first guy was coming after, who dropped the gargoyle and tried to kill her and all that. And she confronted him. He got killed. He was the first one to be killed by the monster. First student to be killed by the monster. A couple of townspeople were killed before that. But there's a lot of story stuff I'm not going to go into because it's very complicated and you go around in circles. But basically, Christina Ricci's character is confronted by Wednesday and Tyler, who, is the other side of the Hyde. But it's actually not her, it's the headmistress, who's a shapeshifter who covered up the first kid who was killed to save the reputation of the school, because the school has been on thin ice ever since a normie was killed. They disbanded the group that Morticia and Gomez were in, and now they're a secret society and all that, and the town lives very uneasily with them because they need them for the money. They're like a university town. So she confronts them. She kills the Gwendolyn Christie character by injecting her with white oleander. She gets the best of Wednesday, knocking her out. Then she uses her blood to free her ancestor, and he goes after Wednesday. Wednesday tries to stop him. He stabs her. She nearly dies. Goody, her ghost, comes back and saves Wednesday. And Wednesday confronts this guy who's gone back to Nevermore Academy, who's trying to burn it all down and kill everyone. She's helped by one of the other students who stabs him through the back. And the sword which he broke, that I thought she was going to impale him through the heart with. She ends up using the edge of the sword that's left, the end of it that's not broken, stabbing him in the heart. He bursts into flames. And the beekeeper kid, who was nearly killed as well earlier, who's been in the hospital the whole time, comes back and he uses the bees to subdue Christina Ricci's character, and then Wednesday stomps her. So I was a little disappointed that they killed Gwendolyn Christie's character, because she obviously won't be back for the second season. I think they used Christina Ricci wrong. I get that she was the big bad, she was like had the important role, but it wasn't a surprise. So losing her overall in the series, she's only going to be in this one season, I guess, for that non-surprise surprise wasn't really worth it. I think they just should have kept her as a character, had her through the whole series, and had someone else be the one controlling the Hyde. So there are a few things that didn't work for me. But overall, the look of the series, the tone of the series was great. Now, we only saw the Addams family in episode 1, I think 2 and 5. We saw them when they bring Wednesday to school, and we see a bit of the competition between Morticia and Wednesday. We see them, I think in the second episode, talking to Wednesday through the crystal ball, and then we don't see them again until the 5th episode, which is the Parents' Weekend episode, where we find out the whole history and we get flashbacks with the younger Gomez and Morticia and everything. And they were very much out of character, which I meant to mention. When they were being confronted by this guy, they were like panicked, they were fighting for their lives. I'm like, Gomez and Morticia would be excited about this attack. They would be thrilled to be embracing death and confronting death, and they play it like they're just normal people. And that's one of the issues with the Addams family, trying to make these comics into real people, because that kind of plays well in a one-note joke. But to make them real people who have people they care about, but not afraid of death and obsessed with death, but yet obviously they want to, protect their family. It's sort of, it didn't work in that scenario. The way they set that up, it didn't really work. But it's kind of been tricky with other shows. They sort of play it off in a certain way, and this was less of a comedy, so it didn't kind of work in that way. But yeah, the show ends off with the Academy sort of closing down early, and Tyler giving her a phone and sort of still being interested in her. The Hyde's taken off by like the army or the police or whatever. You see it transforming, but it's in chains, so it's probably not going to get away. But why was it transforming? Was it trying to escape, or was it being called by Christina Ricci's character because she wasn't killed? Has she been killed? Will she be back? And when Wednesday's picked up, and she's picked up in the car, and the other members of the family aren't there with her, it was just Lurch. I was expecting to see everyone, because the only other family member we saw, aside from Ed, who's there the whole time, is Uncle Fester, who shows up for one episode, and he's fun, although he's thinner than Gomez, which is just really weird. He's tall and thin, whereas Gomez is short and heavy, and I'm not really sure. I'd have to go back and look at the early comics to see if Uncle Fester was taller and thinner in the original comics. I don't think he was. But basically she leaves, and she gets a text, and someone sends photos of her talking to, did I say Tyler? Xavier. And basically sending her a threatening emoji of a little Wednesday emoji being stabbed. And it's like, oh, we're setting up the next season. And she sort of has a voiceover running through the whole series, and she's like, my first stalker, will they become my nemesis? Will the Hyde be back? Will, old people, enemies come back, blah, blah. What's going to happen next season, basically? And she sort of sets it all up, and then she's like, I know the anticipation is killing you. And then that's where it ends. So they sort of leave on a little bit of a cliffhanger. I guess we're going to get it's an open ending at least. I guess we'll get a second season. But I really think they sort of made a mistake by killing off Gwendolyn Christie and making Christina Ricci the bad guy, because she can really only be in one season unless she comes back and she's like the nemesis each season or something, escapes or something. I don't see her coming back in. That's a bit of a loss. I would have rather her been there in a lesser capacity for the whole series, assuming it's going to be multiple seasons. But I'm nearly up to 15 minutes. I swore this was going to be a 10-minute video, but I just could not do it. I tried already, did a 17-minute one and said, no, do it again. You can do it in 10. I failed. But it's a good series. It's a bit CW. Like I said, it creates its own sort of universe, which is interesting, which would have worked on its own. And that sort of, I think takes away from the Addams universe, which sort of had its own charm and strengths. So overall, good. Long term for the Addams Family franchise, it might be a misstep, but I'm looking forward to the next season. I really did enjoy it in the moment, episode to episode, but I'm just looking at it objectively at some of the things. There's a few issues, and I do wish the family had been in it more. We don't see the house. We only see it in a flashback of Wednesday remembering burying her pet scorpion. And it looks a bit cartoony, and it doesn't look anywhere near as real as the real building that they use for the Nevermore Academy, which looks brilliant. There's some themes with, minorities and victimization that are interesting, and that, and I see some people are going to criticize that, but overall, loved it. Look forward to the next season. Wondering how it's going to affect the overall franchise with this new universe, but we'll see.